Convene this meeting. We left off at page 83, electric fund revenue, renewal and replacement revenues. No one has any questions on that. We'll go over to capital request, electric fund.
I would ask this, Cindy, maybe we can shortcut the capital. And we get to the end, just tell us any material changes. I mean, you can do it at the end of the operating statement if you want. I don't care.
As we get to each fund, I can let you know what I think we're
Well, are there material changes here then?
There were a few that are.
No, not really from the first time that we looked at it. I will say, with regard to the cash carryover, if you go back and look at the entire 5-year CIP, one of the things we did differently starting last year was to try to construct a 5-year capital plan that had some balances forward and back and forth from year to year to level off the annual transfers. And, in years past, we'd budget, $6 million for capital one year and $6 million in a transfer. Next year we had 2 and it was 2. And that makes rate stability really difficult. So in some years, you'll see we're using up fund balance. For instance, in 12-13, we're using up about $3 million of it. In some years, we're replenishing it so that the transfers are more level. And so looking at that in the context of the entire 5-year plan is probably a good idea.
No, and I think it's certainly a more realistic reflection of how the expenses are going out. And I thank you for
Actuals.
Yeah.
Let me stop on water and sewer a minute. Jim had a update for us on the police number of personnel.
Councilman Kramer asked about the 10-person reduction in the police department. In about 04-05, you did have 64 police officers that were funded. Jim Gabbard became city manager, and those positions were done away with. But a lot of them were management positions, and they were pretty top-heavy at the time, so evidently Mr. Gabbard made some changes. From about 05 forward, they put them in there unfunded. And so if you go from 2000 to 2005, it went from a high of about 64 and then started decreasing at that point. And then about the time he came over here is about the time that they became unfunded positions in the department.
Yeah, and it was the only division where we had that weird authorized but unfunded. And when we first came along and tried to reconcile the numbers in the budget book with the number of feet on the street, we're like, what's this? And if it's not budgeted, then it doesn't matter if it's authorized. It's not authorized if there's no funding appropriated for it. And so we fixed that, I think, in 11-12's budget.
That's correct. But a lot of them were officers type or management positions. So it really, I don't think it affected the folks on the street.
no.
Water and sewer over in 88, 89.
89, I have a question.
Go right ahead.
Interest on investments. Last year was 57. You got 105 budgeted, and so far interest on investments has been 3. And generally speaking, interest on investments we've cut way down in all the other funds and general fund. That just looks like a suspicious number. That's all.
Are you good with that number? Yeah,
I think that number's too high.
Well, we're having a pretty terrible year. I just got my quarterly, performance report from Cutwater. This particular set of investments, unlike our pension investments, we can't, by state law and by our policy, but that follows state law, invest in anything that has a very long time frame. And so all of these monies are invested in treasuries and agency funds.
How much money?
It is about $55 million across all the funds. And we, last quarter, actually took a 0.2% loss. So what we are doing differently than in the past is each month when we get our reports, we recognize not only interest earnings, but also make adjustments to unrealized gains and losses so that each month we're reflecting the market value, whereas in the past they did that once a year. But if you look over the 3-year period, or since the inception of these investments back with these guys in 2009, we're running about 1%, 1.3%. So, again, I'm in a tough spot. Do I go with 1% or do I?
No, but you have actually one. I think it's one. 0.1% mistake.
Well, for the water and
That's okay.
for water and sewer, their portion of that $55 million is about 2.5. So
Yeah, what?
$2.5 million, I think, is their balance in the investment fund, because it's a pooled fund.
Well, if you were to get 1%, which would be very good, the way you're investing, it'd be 25. So that'd make my point.
Right.
Your number's too high.
I'd like to go back and relook them all. We've been running
You did pretty good on the others. This
Yeah.
one,
Yeah. So we're higher.
and
this one was suspicious.
and honestly, compared to year to date, none of these are going to look very good considering the way we've gotten crushed for the last couple of quarters.
But 25 would be I think reality.
More realistic, yeah. Budget by department on 90. Expenditure by object